Hey there, live like your nail color gals. Do you have a dream or desire to do something new, but you haven't yet? Instead, you hesitate. You tell yourself there's so many reasons why you can't or not now, and you shove the idea to the back of the line. Well, if so, then you're going to love my conversation with Leslie Kane. But before we get started, have you taken my quiz to determine your nail color persona? You know, I always ask my guests to take and share their results because it's a fun way to get to know them before we dive into our conversation. And all you have to do is to go to livelikeyournailcolor.com/quiz to take the quiz yourself. You answer 3 quick questions, and in your results, discover your specific nail color persona, your built in strengths, and how to tap into those strengths when chip happens. Again, just go to livelikeyournailcolor.com/quiz. Now let's get talking with Leslie.
Tired of so much chip happening? Discouraged by so much downer news? Weary from chronic crisis? Don't let the chips keep you down. Welcome to the Live Like Your Nail Color podcast, where the tips of your fingers and toes are ready to inspire you to not give up and to keep creating the business, career, and life you want. In each episode, we flip the chip and let our fun nail color with that crazy fun name cheer us on to remember our strengths, embrace the power of choice, see life as an adventure, and know resilience is only a touch-up or change-up away. Get ready for a good time and a good laugh with your host, Mary Foley.
Welcome back, Live Like Your Nail Color gals. Especially because of the last few years, do you have a dream or desire to do something new? Something that keeps tugging at you, that keeps calling your name, that stirs your excitement just thinking about it? Maybe it's something big, like a totally new career or a business direction or an exotic travel adventure. Or perhaps it's something a little less intense, like learning to knit or taking glass blowing classes. But you haven't yet. You hesitate. You tell yourself there are so many reasons you can't or not now. You shove the idea to the back of the line. Today's gal pal, Leslie Kane, is here to help. 28 years ago, she left her corporate career to build her own full-time business as an independent sales director with Mary Kay. She's been driving a pink Cadillac or a Mary Kay car pretty much ever since. When the pandemic party started, her business had to change, and so did she. And then a nudge to do something new happened. And without any media background, but with a whole lot of heart, she launched a new podcast named Why Not Today? Well, today, we're about to find out why. Leslie, welcome to the Live Like Your Nail Color podcast.
Thanks, Mary. I'm super excited to be here with you.
I'm excited too. We have known each other for now, of those 28 years, probably 20, right?
A lot of them, at least.
A lot of those years. I know it's one of those where we start to lose track. We've connected, reconnected, been in out each other's lives, and it's neat to see so many years later from when we first started and we first met. You're doing the same thing even more. I mean, that's impressive to me. The track record there is really, really impressive. And then I found out that you recently started this podcast, and I was like, huh? In addition, of course, to your full-time Mary Kay business, that really got my attention because, of course, I recently started the Live Like Your Nail Color podcast. So we were like, what's going on here? And as we talked, there were so many things that dovetailed between Live Like Your Nail Color and the Why Not Today podcast. So I just think it's great at what you're doing, but also really the biggest thing is why, right? And so that's why I wanted to have you on the podcast. I want to talk more about that, what you're doing and why. But before we do that, I always ask my guests to take my What's Your Nail Color Persona quiz and to determine what's your nail color persona. So first off, what is that nail color persona that it, pegged you as, and did it nail you?
So I did it twice.
Okay, good. Make sure.
And I did it the other day and I did twice. So the first one was Amazing Adventurer, which definitely hit me. And then I did it again because I do wear the same. I usually don't wear always the same colors, but it always is a bright color. So it kind of matched with the Solid Sister also. And they both kind of matched who I was.
Yeah. So was it a solid, bright color all the time?
Yes, always a solid, bright color.
Got it. Okay. Maybe you're
Sometimes it has a little sparkle to it.
okay. Yeah. So here's the cool thing. Now you see we're getting into it. See, yeah, sometimes has a little sparkle. So there's a little variation, right? There's almost like a foundation, which is
Right.
soft, bright colors. All right, that's the solid sister in you.
Exactly.
However, it's bright colors and it's something else.
Absolutely.
So this is where the amazing adventurer kicks in. All right.
Yes.
I'm thinking, you might be on the cusp of fully going to the amazing adventure route if you did designs. Yeah, sometimes, I don't know, like had different colors on different fingers. Now you're going like crazy pants with amazing adventurer. But
Right.
here's what's cool. I love that you did it twice and you got slightly different results, made you think. So what was the actual a meaning of your fave go-to color, and did that nail you?
And it did, and it is pink. That and pink is, kind of a signature color. My niece asked me one time why pink was my favorite color. I'm like, it pays me really well. So
Okay.
bottom line.
That's true, but that was
and so yeah.
Obviously, it's the
but,
okay. Yeah.
but it does. The description of pink does hit me pretty on top perfectly.
Yeah. So what's that description that really? What are the parts of that?
It said, "I am warm, chatty, friendly, and fun. I get along easily with others and make them feel comfortable. And the hotter the pink, the chattier I am." So I always say I like to collect. I love to connect with people, and I love to collect friends. And I think and love to meet new people. And yeah, that just totally described me.
Yep, that's right. And usually I see you wearing hot pink, not
I
pale
do.
pink.
Oh no, pale pink. No,
No
it's
pale
definitely
pink.
hot pink. Exactly.
Chattier than ever, friendly and fun. Totally nailed you, and I'm
Yeah.
okay. I'm thrilled with that. All right, so now that we know you're chatty and friendly and fun and you're warm, let's just kind of go. What happens to that gal when there's been a lot of chip happening in our world for the last few years? I mentioned, as I introduced you, that your business had to change.
Absolutely.
You mentioned that to me, but more specifically, how did the pandemic party impact your business and your life?
Well, at first it was super scary. I will have to admit. I remember sitting there, and luckily we didn't know this was going on for a long time. We thought maybe a short amount of time. If we
Right.
would have known it was a long time, I don't know what I would have done. But this is my full time income. This is how I live. There's no extra cash coming into my house. And so when this happened, I've been doing for 26 years appointments with people knee to knee, eyeball to eyeball. And all of a sudden that's taken away. So I was like, all right, now what am I going to do? So I was like, all right, all I can do is trust God and bless women. And I started putting together just some sample packs and literally one a day. And one of the good things about COVID, there was no traffic, and I live in Northern Virginia. And one day I remember I spent a couple hours at rush hour just dropping and leaving bags of samples at people's doorsteps. And I'm like, who wants to try it? And I started just reaching out to anybody on social media, anybody, anywhere. And I just started dropping off samples. And then I started creating a virtual business, and created kind of my niche is spa sessions, which I do. I send women a packet of some samples and we jump on Zoom, and it's totally complimentary, and they can be anywhere in the United States with any friends. So I've done, people all over, all different things. And the cool thing is, during COVID, people were hurting and they were lonely and weren't taking care of them. And women in general don't take care of themselves. And so it forced people to lock themselves in the bathroom, basically, have their favorite beverage, their comfy clothes, get their kids out of their hair for an hour, and hang out with their friends. So I did appointments with people that had little ones that would never be able to, on a Friday night, all coordinate traffic and childcare and everything and get together. And yet they were able to do that. I did a birthday party one time, and it was 6 friends in 6 states, from high school to college friends. And they just jumped on Zoom. I mean, they wouldn't have ever gone to a spa. So I was able to create a totally new business. And because of that, created a new lifestyle, which has been kind of fun, because I am single, and COVID, I will admit, was super lonely. And I'm like, I got to get out of here. So I had a friend that had a condo at Smith Mountain Lake and started going there. And I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter where I work. And so I'm gone more than I'm at home. I'm actually right now at Smith Mountain Lake. I've been here. It'll be 3 weeks, and I'll be home for 4 days. And I'm going to Florida for 2.5 weeks. And I can take my business wherever. So last year, I think I calculated I was gone 165 days, and still was able to have a successful business and live a fun lifestyle. So, I work in the morning and play in the afternoon. I literally one time I had an appointment. I jumped off the boat, came in for an hour and did a Zoom with 6 people in 6 states. And then an hour and a half later, I was back on the lake.
Wow.
So it worked for me and has created a fun, totally different lifestyle and business. So
Yeah. And now that we're able to meet in person, and are you going back to the way it was?
I don't want to, honestly.
Sounds like too much
because
fun now.
I don't want to change my lifestyle, and I can connect better, easier. People show up. It's so much easier for people than to have to go places. So, I do some one-offs here and there. People want to play with colors and do things, but the big party, original Mary Kay format, no. I know some people are, but it doesn't work for me. I can reach more people this way.
I love that. And so then you're moving all over the place, so to speak, right? You got this mobile business basically, right? And you've changed your business, you've changed your lifestyle. And then you started this podcast called Why Not Today? So how did you come up with that name, and why did you do it? I mean, I said earlier you had a nudge, but what really happened?
So good question. So it's been in the back of my mind. I don't know why. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I just have felt this, as you said, nudge or urge, like I just needed to do a podcast. And a couple of people I know have done them, and a friend of mine had me on hers, and we were talking about it. And it's just been in the back of my mind. So fast forward, it was actually September of last year. There was a social media site called Nextdoor, and I rarely look at it, and something popped up, and it was a picture of a man with an eye patch on. And my dad lost his eyesight when he was in high school, and so he always wore an eye patch, and so that's kind of how he was known. And he did pass away 9 years ago. And I always wanted to do something to kind of honor him. I looked at a nonprofit that didn't go, but so this man posted this picture of himself with an eye patch. He said every morning he woke up. He had some surgery, so that's why I had to wear it. He said, I woke up every morning and thought of my old friend, Pat Kane. And he wrote this really nice thing about my dad. And he said, we always said, why not today? And that just stuck. And so I actually was having coffee with this friend that did the podcast. And I'm like, this podcast thing keeps coming to mind. And I told her a story about my dad. And she goes, well, first of all, that's the name of your podcast. And why not today? And just do it. And so I created the graphic. I have a logo or a graphic person. So we created the logo, which just says why not today, with my dad's logo. He had an eye patch, but he also had a handlebar mustache. So he had a very unique logo that we all actually have tattoos of. And so I did some vinyls and made some cups for everybody in my family. And I still hadn't pulled the trigger, but my dad actually passed away on his birthday, which is March 5th. So I was like, you know what? I don't know what this looks like, and I just need to start. It's not going to be perfect, but why not today? And our first episode launched on March 5th. And since then, I've done an episode every 2 weeks and have not missed one since we started. And, I'm still figuring it out, and I'm still saying why not today, and it's not perfect, but you just got to start. And that's kind of the whole premise of it, is courage and saying why not today, and just doing the things that you have it all perfect.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I love the fact that you seemingly randomly went on a platform that you don't go on normally. And in that moment, because we all know there's streams, it all depends on, that space continuum. When you see something that on a social, that you saw this man who was posting one about your dad specifically, with the eye patch, which obviously would have gotten anyone's attention because we don't see that a whole lot, right?
Right.
And he says every morning I think about your dad, and then for you to think in terms of podcasts, I mean, just the fact of, I want to do something to honor my dad. Because you had even said at the very beginning, I always wanted to do something to honor my dad, right? And you
Right.
had that initial idea, but you didn't know what. And perhaps,
Right.
and you didn't take time necessarily up until now to really think about more specifically what that might look like. But then you saw this moment in time and this person honoring your dad, and you went, snap, there's an idea. There's the motivation. And then what I love what you said, it kept coming to mind, kept coming to mind. And then you talked about the coffee conversation that you had with a friend.
Right.
So now you're going from idea in your head, right, to verbally outside in your mouth, right, sharing it, which makes it more
Right.
real. And then you're getting feedback from someone you trust. Well, that should be the name of your podcast. And that, she's hearing your enthusiasm and your voice, and she's helping you bounce ideas and give her thoughts on it that help you form yours more crystal. And then you're like, okay, then you immediately took some action, the logo, the vinyls, the stuff, right? But then you had
Right.
to trigger. It's a podcast. Okay, I mean, really.
Yeah.
And so, there's like moment of truth. I've gotten to this far, but now I gotta
I gotta do it.
jump it off. And you created a deadline, a date, basically. You created a launch date that had so wrapped up in meaning of your dad's birthday on March 5th, both his coming into this world and his leaving this world. So something happening at the same time and that same date of March 5th that honors him and perpetuates and continues the legacy basically that he started is really cool. So, and even if you did it imperfectly, so I'm just curious. So as you were leading up to that launch date, right? How did you feel?
Scared, like I have no idea what this is going to look like, and how am I going to do all the pieces, logistics. But because I've been doing Zoom meetings and running a business via Zoom,
Right.
it came pretty naturally, and it was just kind of okay. And I'm more of a live on the edge kind of girl and just speak from my heart. So I did take some notes. I wanted to do it, and like procrastinated all day, like I had to get it done. I had like put in my calendar like the Wednesday before the release and had to figure it out. I'm like, all right, I waited all day. I'm like, kept getting bigger. I'm just like, just do it. And I'm sure I haven't even listened to it. It wasn't even perfect.
Right.
None of mine have been edited. It's just real.
Yeah.
And it's a conversation. And
right.
And I had to say, why not today? Like, just do it. Everything I've done for 28 years in Mary Kay has taught me skills. Like I was interviewing somebody and she's like, you're really good at this. I'm like, I have controlled women in party groups for years. I know how to pull people back in and, using Zoom and all the tools that you need for a podcast. I didn't go into blindly. I already have things in place with my business that I was able to use.
Yeah. All of that was in some ways getting you ready for now this new adventure, this amazing adventure. All right. So I've listened to several of your podcasts and I love that it's about stories of real people.
Right.
You have at some moment said, well, why not today do this? And I was wondering if you could share a few examples of podcast guests that really inspired you by what they decided to do today and not postpone.
Okay. Yeah, lots of them. And lots of them are about people leaving jobs to start a business, to start a franchise. And that always speaks to me when I started my business, or quit my job. People are like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? And there's a lot of fear around starting on your own.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to think, some of my favorite, probably the one that was the most impactful, which was kind of totally by accident, was a good friend of mine who I was visiting her in upstate New York, and I was supposed to have somebody else on the podcast that unfortunately got sick. And so she's like, why don't you interview me? I'm like, okay, what have you done courageous? Well, I didn't know the extent of it, but she had had lots of surgeries and lots of health issues. And because of that, got totally addicted to Oxy. And so she was able to share her story of getting clean and the withdrawals and everything. And she went through the withdrawals and got off of even the drug that's supposed to help you. Well, most people are on forever to get them off the Oxy, but she went through that last year. And so that was the first time she publicly spoke about it, to the extent that I didn't know, and we're good friends, how extensive it was. And her parents didn't even know. So I think that was a definitely big why not today. I interviewed somebody else that is a coach, also Mary Kay, but she talked about just healing the hustle is kind of her theme. And we're all working so hard and we have our ladder going this way on this goal and everything. And is it really what we want? And I think COVID gave us a time to kind of reevaluate. Seems to be kind of an underlying theme of women around their 50s are looking at life, although I've interviewed men too, but women looking at life and going, okay, is this really what I want? Is this all there is? I interviewed somebody who wrote a book about being brave and does retreats around that. And we're actually talking about doing a retreat together, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
A couple younger people that have run for office, which, oh my gosh, that's like scare me to death to run. They run for Congress. So, and then I interviewed somebody the other day that works for a nonprofit called Shelter House. It has homeless shelters and domestic violence shelters. And when I told somebody I was interviewing him, they're like, what are you interviewing him for? I'm like, not necessarily his courageous story, but the courage of the women and men that he works with in the shelters.
Yeah.
And of course, my most recent guest that will come out soon is Miss Mary Foley, which I'm super excited about. Yeah, that's going to be fun. And then what I'm kind of excited about too is I connected with Mary Kay Ash's personal assistant for years. She wrote a book called Pass It On. And we're supposed to talk later today about her being a guest to share Mary Kay Ash's courage stories.
Wow.
So it's been a wide variety. So hoping that'll be in September around Mary Kay's anniversary, which would be kind of cool. So just lots of different people and their stories and just little courage, big courage, people having courage to say yes. But then I interviewed a friend that was going to write a book and decided it wasn't right for her. And she said no. So sometimes it takes courage to say no.
Yeah, that's true. As much as it is to say yes to something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, how do you define courage?
Oh my goodness, that's a hard question to ask because I've heard everybody else's definition of it. But
That's right, now on the spot.
So yeah, courage is doing the thing scared, having faith, and just do it anyway. And I always tell people, think about the outcome, not when you're in it, but think about when you're done. A friend of mine recently, unfortunately, is going through a divorce, and they had to tell her kids, and she was scared to death to tell her kids about her and their dad were separating. And I'm like, just think about when you're done telling them how you're going to feel. And of course, most kids are very aware, and they laughed and they're like, oh, of course we knew,
Yeah.
But, think about the after, like when you're done, like we've all done those scary things.
Mm-hmm.
But think about how will you feel when you've done it? Because if you don't do it, I think we think about it over and over and over, and it just haunts us. But when you do it, it's like, oh, it's never as big as we think it is either. We blow it up in our mind.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. As you talk to particularly women, like you were saying, about their emotions around why they don't do something, what do you find are the biggest reasons women hesitate to do something today that they've been talking about or dreaming about?
Well, it's that fear. And, don't know the outcome. And I think we're in a society of cookie cutter. You're supposed to do this and this and this and this. Mm-hmm. And, when you do something differently, living in the DC area, it was, you need a good, solid government job. That's what people were you need insurance. I think when I quit my job, people are like, what are you going to do about insurance? I'm like, I'm going to buy it. You're paying for it, just a different way. If you love what you're doing, do it. But if you don't, or you get that nudge or that God wink, as we called, and, I know, Mary, you and I talked before we started recording this, is we talked yesterday about courage, and then somebody sends you in the mail a card about courage and a little angel that is courage. I'm like, okay, that's definitely a God wink. So, pay attention to those things. If your heart's saying do something else, then do it. I talked to somebody the other day, and she was a pediatric nurse and loved it. You just see the passion in her. And then she said her husband said they need more money, so she's in pharmaceutical sales now. She's like, I don't love it, but I have a good life because I could make the extra money, but she's not passionate about it. So I have a big passion for people doing something that you really love, and try it. And if it doesn't work, it's not the end of the world. when I quit my job, people are like, what are you going to do if it doesn't work? I'm like, I'll get another job. Like,
Well, that's the thing, is the fear of failure, right?
right.
Particularly if it's public,
Exactly.
or you feel like it's public and all these people are going to notice, but
They really don't.
and well, there's that. You said earlier we blow it up to be bigger than it is, and that people are paying far more attention sometimes than they have the bandwidth to, right? I mean,
Right.
that makes me kind of think, so you're a successful woman, that even with the best plan, even doing this podcast, your podcast, at some point chip happens, right? That's my language. In the Look Like Your Nail Color vernacular, chip happens. It's not going to go exactly as planned. When that happens to you, what do you say to yourself to bounce back?
I'm a very positive person. So I'm like, all right, what's the lesson here that we're going to pick up? But okay, what can we do better? What can we do? I had a podcast episode I recorded a couple of weeks ago and didn't record. And I didn't realize it until I went to post it. I'm like, I'll just do it later. We'll redo it and it's okay. I try to look for the positive. I'm definitely a glass half full kind of girl. So, look at the positive and pray, trust God, and just pivot and see, okay, what can we do differently? Because it's not always perfect and not always positive, and I do, every once in a while have some bad days. So, but just be able to pivot, pray, turn it around, because you just never know, and you never know those things that happen. They may turn into, like COVID. For me, it was scary, but it turned into a positive. Just never know.
Well, I here's what I'm hearing in all of that from you. You let it go so quickly and easily.
I do.
And oh my gosh, I can learn to do that better, right? Because instead I go, this didn't really go well. Why didn't it go well? Do the eval, do the assessment, like what you say, like what's the lesson? What are the lessons here? And then I want to apply that going forward, because whenever I'm learning something new, even with my passion and even with my best leveraging of my existing skills and experience, I'm still not going to do it nearly as well the first time as I hopefully will do it, 6 months or a year from now, right? And so it's this, review, learn, adjust, all the time. But sometimes in that I can review, I can learn, I can make an adjustment, and I still don't let go of the fact that I screwed up or it felt bad, right? At least not enough. And so that's personally for me what I need, because I need to let it go more easily and quickly. Like it really doesn't.
Somebody said the other day, not let it go, but let it be. Like, okay, be okay with it that it didn't go perfectly, and just realize, just like you said, you're going to readjust, but let it be, not let it go. Because sometimes you're not going to be able to let it go, that you did screw up or something bad did happen. But okay, that was there for a reason. Let it be, put it down, and go forward. And one thing I teach a lot with the Mary Kay is an emotional cycle. And, we start with excitement where you want to do a podcast, you want to start a business, you want to do whatever. And then you get that fear and the anxiety and the what ifs, and you go through that cycle. And then once you get back into action, you're more excited again. So I always say the difference between somebody starting out to somebody that's been established in a business is you can go through that emotional cycle quicker. So you're just saying me letting it go. I think it's 28 years of Mary Kay training to say, all right, that happened, but okay, what can I do to get back into action and do it better?
Wow. I love that. That's really, really helpful for me personally. So thank you for being on my podcast. I get all these kinds of things from my guests. I know that you do also.
Yeah, absolutely. We're learning from each other.
Absolutely. That's kind of, you could say that's one of my own personal selfish benefits, but you're not denying that there's a cycle, that there are and I think that's really key. And second, you're saying, yeah, but you can move through it more quickly. And how you move through it more quickly, it sounds is recognizing it, feeling it, trying to do your best to, instead of let it go, just let it be, put it on the ground, and then take action, do another next step. And in that action, your mind focuses on that action. It has to in order to do that thing. And then the emotions can start to catch up and
Right.
shift from, what you let go and what you put down to, oh, look what's possible. And the excitement of
Right.
actually, I did something right right now. I just got that
Hmm.
next action. There's a ton of wisdom in that. Ton of wisdom.
Yeah.
In live like your nail color terms, I talk about how you can boost your resilience. When chip happens, this is one of the huge keys. I think the cool thing is that whether you're listening right now and you've already got that, just keep doing it, and you remind yourself, all right, let me just keep moving through this cycle, and so I can keep moving forward. And if you haven't had that awareness, now you can. You don't have to get stuck in the negative emotions. You just say, let me process them, we'll pass through, but let me take some of the next action, and then see how that feels, as well as keep moving. I'm so curious, what is your dream for the Why Not Today podcast?
That's a great question. And I just feel in my gut and my heart and my soul that there is a bigger purpose to this, that God's just leading me on this path, that Why Not Today is a movement.
Mhm.
So I have um, some merchandise. We've got T-shirts, we've got cups, and some vinyls. That Why Not Today becomes a movement like that T-shirt company Life is Good. Like I want people saying all over the country, like, why not today? Just do it. And so starting a movement that's bigger than me. And my dad was bigger than life and touched so many lives. And I think just to his legacy, being able to share that, get people to have the courage to say, why not today? And it's kind of fun that with the t-shirts I've done, I posted a couple on social media. And one of my dad's best friends from high school, that he played high school football with in California. His son and I connected on social media, and I put the T-shirt. Anybody want one? He's like, I want one. And I'm like, do you know the logos? And he's like, of course I do. He's like, I have so many great memories of my dad and your dad talking. And so he's like, can I order a T-shirt? And so it's kind of fun to see it going all the way back, circle back to my dad. So yeah, a movement. Um, Getting just people to be courageous and having people sharing people's courage stories and what courage means to them and what they've done and
Yeah.
getting it past me and my friends. So I've only had one person on the podcast that I did not know that somebody recommended. But being able to get some bigger voices and just people's stories and take it to as a movement, like my friend talking about her addiction, talking about um, domestic violence, like using it as a platform to help people, to give them courage. Like I want to interview a couple of people I know that have had health scares, that some random thing got them to pay attention and they went to the doctor or they fought. There's somebody I know who's unfortunately young child wasn't feeling well and the mom just knew in her gut there was more and the doctors kept dismissing it. And she actually has brain cancer and she's getting treatment and help, but mom listened to her gut. So I want to be able to give people courage in all areas of their life with Why Not Today. So it's not just starting a job or quitting a job, but making a difference.
Yeah. And I think that we can think of courage as such a big thing, like I'm going out almost like on a battlefield or something, or just
Yeah.
I'm doing this huge thing, like you said, I'm changing career direction or I'm starting a business. But there's smaller acts of courage we can do every day.
And sometimes, people that are depressed or having major life issues, it's just getting up in the morning sometimes.
Yeah. Right.
It takes courage just to put your feet on the floor to get out of bed. It takes courage to do something with a loved one. It takes courage to build relationships. I mean, there's so many things, and it's not just about the big. So that's where I want to see it to go. Just so many other places.
I love it. I think it's great. I'm going to continue to listen. I love, and I think there's power in people's stories, and like you said, all kinds of different stories
Yeah.
and acts of courage. So I want to talk nail color again. Okay, we're going to bring it all
Hmm.
around here. If you could create
Okay.
a name for a nail color to inspire us to take action on our dreams today and have that courage, what would that name be?
Why not today? Absolutely.
Yeah,
And I think maybe I need to get a nail color, call OPI and get a nail color named Why Not Today.
that's right. Well, here's the cool thing. You don't even have to necessarily call any nail color manufacturer or anything. What you can do, and I'm a big proponent of this, is you get your favorite color or one that you're like, yes, maybe it's a little bit out of your box, but it says to you courage, right? In some way, it says, gives that spark. For you, of course, it would be hot pink, but maybe it would even be hot pink with a little design. I don't know, but you give it no matter the name that's on the bottle or on the package, you say, for me, it's called Why Not Today.
Well, it's interesting. My Mary Kay world is pink.
Yeah.
But the Why Not Today logo is more of a teal, which is really my favorite color. So I'm trying to do some branding around coordinating those colors together, a teal and a pink. And so and I was thinking as we started this, I need to maybe start wearing teal nail polish instead of pink nail polish to have the Why Not Today brand. But I have been more intentional about wearing my Why Not Today t-shirts, carrying my Why Not Today cups. And I was at a coffee shop the other day and some lady walked by and she goes, Why not today? I love that idea. So just sharing it. So yeah, maybe I'll do a teal, start wearing a teal nail color, which is different for me to get people's attention instead of pink.
Yeah, that's great. And you can always just do like one or two of your fingers that are teal.
Exactly, because I'm an adventure. Then I'll really be an adventurer. Maybe I'll do that. One hand, I'll do one hand one way, one hand the other. Like, right, what is wrong with you?
Solid sister, I'm pushing to the edge of being an amazing adventurer. So why not give it a try? Why not today?
Why not today? Exactly.
This has just been so fun. And
it has.
I really want people to be able to connect with what you're doing more and get that encouragement as well. So for those who want to reach out, connect with you, listen to your podcast, maybe get one of the cups or the tumblers or the t-shirts, what's the best way they can do that?
So we're working on the website. It's not quite there yet, but you can find the podcast on Spotify and iTunes. And then I do have a Facebook page and Instagram. That's just Why Not Today. And you can always just reach out, Leslie Kane, on any social media site. I'm super easy to find. And if you have show notes, I can share my contact info.
Yeah.
And you can always find me through Mary Kay. I'm there too, obviously.
Okay. So what I'll do is in the show notes, I'll put all the links that you want to have to make it easy for people to be able to just click, to listen, to connect directly with you. That's one of the things I want to do also with my podcast is to be able to, when you meet cool guests, when you hear cool people, gal pals, you want to go, how do I get in touch with her? And so this is how.
And if anybody has a story they want to be on my podcast, I would love to hear your courage stories or just connect with me. As I said, I love making friends and collecting friends and connecting with people all over. So you never know where you're going to find me. So
and it's okay with us because we may be anywhere too.
Exactly. Wow. Yeah.
Leslie, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for being here today, sharing your story and inspiring us to take action, to have the courage and to say, why not today in any area of our lives? Thanks. If you're new to the Live Like Your Nail Color podcast, this is the Flip the Chip segment, where I take a few minutes to highlight one thing my gal pal shared that can help us all flip a challenge or difficulty that's holding us back into something more positive that helps us move forward. What I want to highlight today is what Leslie shared about what she called the emotional cycle. Simply being aware of it and determining where you are in this cycle is a great tool to help you move through negative emotions and bounce back more quickly. The cycle goes like this. It begins when you decide, why not today? And start something new that excites you. You're pumped and you're full of all kinds of positive can-do feelings. Next, you take your first few steps. And at some point, fear, anxiety, and doubts start to kick in. Your positive feelings are taking back seat to those negative feelings, and you're starting to question if you should continue. This is kind of hard, but you really want this new thing to happen. So you remind yourself how you would feel if you accomplished it. You can regenerate enough positive feelings to press pause on your negative feelings, to put them down, and perhaps to release them altogether and let them go. Here's your opportunity to move to the next part of the cycle. Before negative feelings rear their ugly head again, do the very next action to make your new thing a reality. and then do another action and another. Belief, possibility, and tangible action restores your initial excitement. And once again, you're pumped and full of positive can-do feelings. Where are you on this cycle right now? What do you need to do to move through it more quickly so that you don't get stuck? Those questions are going to help you bounce back more quickly. Hey, and why not let your nail color cheer you on? Pick a fave or new color and give it the name, Why Not Today, like Leslie suggested, so that every time you see your fingers or toes, you're reminded that right now, today, is the best day to move towards that new idea, that dream, and that desire that's waiting for you to make reality. You can make good choices to create the career, business, and life you want, one step, one nail color at a time. Look forward to being with you next time on the Live Like Your Nail Color podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Live Like Your Nail Color podcast. Ready to live and laugh more? Know a friend who could use some of that too? Then subscribe at livelikeyournailcolor.com or your favorite podcast app and share this episode right now with the person who popped into your mind. Together, let's flip the chip to be stronger, smarter, and happier.